Live from the Scripps Studios, this is 10 News.
2 crashes in a matter of hours damaged every car on a Lemon Grove street. Neighbors tell 10 News this is just the latest sign that this area is dangerous. I'm Jason Martinez.
I'm Virginia Cha. I want to show you where this is going on. So the 2 crashes happened this morning right up here at Palm, right by Dennis Street. One of the women whose car was damaged overnight, you just saw, just lost 3 of her loved ones a few weeks ago to a deadly crash that happened right over here, a few blocks away at Lemon Grove Avenue and Mass Avenue. And let's get to 10 News reporter Mimi Alcala, who is live. Mimi?
Virginia, Jason, neighbors here tell me that people speed and drive unsafely all the time down Palm Street. Now, we were covering the crash that happened right down there where you see those damaged cars when another one happened right in front of us this morning, right down the street here. Some of the cars have already been towed away. There are a couple left behind, but by 5:30 this morning, not one car on that side of Palm Street was left without a dent. Now, we watched as the driver crushed this white SUV, crashed it right into this truck, pushing it into several other cars on the street. The driver told us that he had been heading home from work after a long shift. He was almost there when he fell asleep at the wheel and came speeding down the road. Fortunately, he did have minimal injuries, but just hours before a very similar situation, a man lost control of his car, crashing into those parked cars. 2 of those belong to Maribel Nava Cardenas. She's a woman all too familiar with the consequences of unsafe driving. 2 months ago, she lost her daughter and her 2 young siblings just blocks away in that crash on Massachusetts in Lemon Grove that Virginia just showed you on that map. Maribel wants the city to make safety improvements on her street. The city says they are working on it.
If it wasn't for our cars parked there, the car would have went all the way into our house, and it's just getting out of control. Something needs to get done in Lemon Grove.
Along Palm Street, there's a large amount of traffic. With more traffic becomes the more chances for collisions to occur. We are working on a grant, the Systemic Safety Analysis Report Program, to really look at certain locations throughout the city that have a higher propensity for collisions. And then with that data, we're looking to apply for additional grant funds to be able to hopefully make some of the infrastructure improvements to the roadway.
Now, city officials want anyone who notices a dangerous street to report it to them. Neighbors here just want everyone to slow down and be careful. Reporting live in Lemon Grove, Mimi Alcala, 10 News.
We have breaking news right now. The 10 News Live Center. An F-16 fighter jet that was on a training mission crashed near Joint Base Andrews in Maryland, and luckily for the pilot, he's okay. We have some video from the actual crash. Now, the pilot ejects himself and parachutes to safety. I have this right over here as well. It's a little difficult to see, but you can see the jet as well as the parachute and the pilot coming down right over there. Now, this crash is 200 yards away from any homes in the area. People described hearing a loud boom and feeling that loud boom as well, and compared it to a large tree falling. Now, even though no homes were hit, several were evacuated for a few hours just out of caution. And just like we mentioned before, the pilot was okay, but it's also a miracle that no one on the ground was hurt. We're going to continue to follow this story as the investigation continues on to what exactly happened, and I'll have more right here in the Live Center. Jason?
You can see the smoke there. All right, Kalina, thank you very much. So, raising hotel taxes to upgrade the convention center. The mayor says his plan here is going to also create jobs, fix roads, and help the homeless. San Diego desperately needs that. But how much is it going to cost tourists? 10 News reporter Mary McKenzie live at City Hall. Mary, what was the reaction and what happens next?
So, Jason, the idea of raising taxes for tourists is getting its first public hearing right now. And based on the number of speaker cards that were filled out, it is most certainly still going on at this moment. The City Council's Rules Committee heard the details of the proposals from the mayor's office. That tax increase would have cascading tiers of tax hikes. Essentially, one mapped area would add 1%, up to 3% for those closest to the city center, all to pay for 400,000 square feet of new convention space, which could attract more events and more money. That's according to supporters. Then the public had a chance to respond, and most of that opposition this morning seemed to come from advocates for the homeless.
It's only going to raise $10 million for homelessness in the first year. And undoubtedly, the city will spend half of that on consultant fees, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, and it will not be effective in terms of impacting what's going to happen with the homeless population.
Now, coming up at 11:30, we'll talk a little bit more about where that proposal goes from here. Still a number of hurdles to go just to get it proposed and put on a ballot, subject to a vote. We're live downtown. Mary McKenzie, 10 News.
Thank you, Mary. Meanwhile, if that special election is approved, the backers of the Soccer City plan, they want their redevelopment measure to go on the same ballot. Backers of the plan for the Qualcomm Stadium site say they're going to ask the City Council to put that proposal on the ballot. The alternative would be for the City Council to approve the plan outright. Those things can happen only if all the petition signatures for the Soccer City plan turn out to be valid.
Happening now, you just saw it live here on ABC 10. President Trump meeting with King Abdullah of Jordan at the White House. The two will be talking about shared interests in the Middle East, including how to defeat ISIS and end the conflict in Syria. Jordan, one of the U.S.'s closest allies in the Middle East. Happening today, an emergency meeting over the deadly chemical attack in Syria that left children gasping for breath. The UN Security Council looking at who's to blame here. ABC's Stephanie Ramos shows us how Russia may be involved.
These are the cruel and horrifying images coming out of northern Syria after suspected chemical weapons attacks hit the city of Idlib Tuesday. More than 70 people died in the attack, including women and children.
The Security Council is called to order.
Today, United Nations Ambassador Nikki Haley is leading the Security Council in emergency talks about the attack in Syria, emphasizing human rights. Rescue workers, villagers, humanitarian doctors all try to wash the deadly chemicals off the poisoned victims as they struggle to breathe. The bodies of lifeless children carried away.
These children, when we arrived, they have been point people, drowsiness, agitated.
Syrian President Bashar al-Assad's reported use of chemical weapons against his own people is being called a crime against humanity. The Russian Defense Ministry is now claiming the chemicals were released from a rebel bomb factory after it was hit by a Syrian airstrike. Weapons experts tell us that makes no sense.
No, I think this is pretty fanciful, and no doubt the Russians trying to protect their allies. Axiomatically, if you blow up sarin, you destroy it.
The White House condemned the attack, but also placed blame on President Obama.
These heinous actions by the Bashar al-Assad regime are a consequence of the past administration's weakness and irresolution.
That was Stephanie Ramos reporting. Severe weather is moving across parts of the South. In Missouri last night, winds damaged a fire station and an elementary school. The National Weather Service is forecasting rain, wind, and possible tornadoes today. They are also warning of baseball-sized hail. Congress, by the way, just passed a bill to improve weather forecasts to try to help people better prepare for storms like that. The National Weather Service would have to ramp up research to try to get further ahead of the weather. The bill is on the president's desk right now. Happening now, evidence coming out against the man charged with killing his father in City Heights. Prosecutors say Ismael Beltran beat an elderly man on a city bus last October, and the next day, neighbors say Beltran then stabbed his father to death. Beltran's mother drove him to the police station to surrender. Prosecutors don't have a motive for the attacks, but Beltran's lawyer says her client has paranoid schizophrenia.
Happening today, trial starts for the man charged with shooting students at NAU, including a San Diegan. Stephen Jones, accused of opening fire on the Northern Arizona University campus in 2015. 3 people were hurt, including San Diegan Nick Prado. A 4th person, Prado's friend, was killed. Jones faces first-degree murder and aggravated assault charges. He says he did it in self-defense. New developments in the White House. President Trump removed his chief strategist, Steve Bannon, from the National Security Council. It was a controversial decision to give Bannon access to the high-level meetings. The White House will also bring the Director of National Intelligence and the Joint Chiefs Chairman back to the Principals Committee, a group of officials who meet to talk about national security priorities.
New today, North Korea appears to have launched a missile as a show of force just before tomorrow's meeting between President Trump and China's president. But U.S. Pacific Command says today's missile launch was a failure, that the missile spun out of control and plunged into eastern waters in a fiery crash. Now this developing story, police are looking for the men who held up a driver when he got lost in Skyline. The driver pulled over to put an address in his GPS when he says a woman in pajamas walked up to his car. Then he says two men approached the driver's side window and put a knife to his throat. Our 10 News Breaking News Tracker got exclusive video of the man right there talking to police. After the robbery, he flagged down another driver to ask for help.
Gentleman pulled up behind me and then to the side of me. Just asked me to call the police. So I called for him, and that was it.
The robbers got away with that man's MacBook, an iPhone, and an expensive camera. They ran around a house nearby, so police think they may live in that area.